Good evening, welcome. You're watching Left, Right and Center. I'm Vishnu Shom. It's been a remarkable day today, a very worrying day. The world very much on edge after the United States attacked Iran. 3 nuclear facilities. They used stealth bombers. They have said that they have obliterated Iran's ability to build nuclear weapons. Is that the case? Will Iran now voluntarily give up their nuclear facilities? Iran at the moment appears to be defiant, but given the weight of the attacks by the United States on targets in Iran, 3 air bases, Fordow, 3 nuclear bases, Fordow, Esfahan and Natanz, it does appear that the future of Iran's nuclear program for the next several years at least has been done and dusted. It effectively doesn't exist. But the larger question perhaps is, what will Tehran do next? Are they going to strike at America? Because if they do, then it will no longer be the prospect of a larger war in West Asia. It will be a much larger war. Thus far, by and large, the loss of civilians on both sides, Israel and in Iran, has been relatively low. But if this starts expanding and starts getting worse, then we could be looking at a conflict which has dimensions not just within the region, but outside the region as well. But in terms of the American attack, some of the most remarkable from a military standpoint, perhaps ever, this is how it went down. A deal of detail at this stage on just how this operation went. It involved primarily the B-2 stealth bombers. 7 of these were involved. There was deception in the beginning when a couple of these were apparently going to be flying westwards. They didn't. Instead, they flew for 18 hours. They flew across the Atlantic and into Iran, where they struck the Fordow facility, 1 among 3 which was struck. But as they went over there, in the next page you can see that they were escorted by American 5th generation aircraft, which presumably would have been the F-22s, possibly the F-35s. At the end of the day, there were 125 American planes which were involved, including air-to-air refuelers. So these then went into Iran to hit Fordow primarily. What about Natanz and Isfahan, you ask? Well, at this stage, what you can show you is the next page, where you've got these Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles, which were launched from submarines, possibly in the Persian Gulf, possibly elsewhere. The exact location from where these missiles was launched hasn't yet been revealed. But these are subsonic missiles, and while these were flying, the B-2s, of which there were 7, were targeting Fordow. Let's show you in the next image what exactly they were targeting. This is the Fordow site. It's an earlier image from the 20th of June. The entire Fordow facility located underground, under this hilly terrain over here. These are all entry points. They needed to penetrate this. How exactly did they do that? Well, the next picture shows you the B-2 aircraft that you see with the GBU-57. The GBU-57 is called the MOP, or Massive Ordnance Penetrator. Each B-2 carried 2 of these, 30,000 pounds, and these are designed to actually go into that hill and at a certain depth explode and disintegrate it completely. So what were the hits, in fact, at Fordow? That's what the next image shows you. It's been brought out by the international imagery expert Damien Simon, and what we're going to actually do is we're going to focus on a couple of areas. So let's zoom into this particular area because it shows the entry points of that GBU-57 weapon. Focus in over here, right, and you can see the exact entry point made by this weapon, right? One of a couple. Now let's pull out and let's go to another area where the weapon struck. Right over here, you can see it pierce over here, the area, and it's gone right in over there, and in the process, it's gone in, and deep inside, it struck the Fordow facility. Now, there are those entry points which I mentioned earlier on. Those appeared now to be covered in dirt. So again, let's zoom in over here. This access route has been covered in dirt, and it seems it has been blocked, possibly as a result of the explosions inside. And it's the same situation in this particular entry as well. The tunnel entrances appear to be sealed with dirt, right? They are no longer accessible. That's what the B-2s managed to do. But if we go to the next page, because I was just talking about Fordow, What happened is that they were undetected. They don't believe there were shots fired on them. The B-2s and their escort package exited Iran at this stage. But what about the Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles I was talking about? Well, let's go to the next image, because those missiles that you see over here were used to strike Natanz and primarily Isfahan. And that's what the next image shows you. That is the exact sequence of events. Those jets, which I pointed out earlier on, gone by now, right? So the Tomahawk cruise missiles were the first to be launched, the last to strike, by which time the planes went in, went out, and would now presumably be back in the United States. Well, this is what the Pentagon said about the operations a short while back.
More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of fourth and fifth generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11.
Last night, on President Trump's orders, U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program, but it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated.
Last night, on the President's orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordow. As the President stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning.
This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision. It involved misdirection and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces.
Well, joining us now, Ravi Agarwal, the editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy magazine, and really one of the finest minds when it comes to looking at so many of these issues, particularly in West Asia. Ravi, good to have you back on the program. If Iran is to strike American targets, what would that mean? Ravi, I think you're on mute. Can you just unmute yourself?
I think I should be working. Do you hear me now?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. So look, I think America has been very clear in all of its statements so far that this is not America entering the war. This is America just trying to take out Iran's nuclear facilities. It is trying to make, through public sort of outreach, but also through private messaging, that it hopes that this doesn't lead to escalation. Now, I personally think that that is a hopeful assessment of how Tehran thinks about this. I think Iran is humiliated in many ways. They are going to need to show strength in some form. And the question now is what form that show of strength takes. Does it mean that they feel the need to attack some US installations in the region? Does it mean that they feel the need to attack oil tankers, use the Houthis in the Straits of Hormuz, cause global oil prices to spike? I think this is now the reason why so many of us were worried about a potential action that Trump has now taken, is that we just don't know how Tehran could respond. It could do all kinds of things to hurt the global economy. That could lead to other consequences and a wider conflagration in the region. We just don't know.
Ravi, is it America's intention to get a regime change happening in Iran, or is it primarily Israel's intention to do that?
That's a very good question. I mean, it is clearly Israel's intention to try and get regime change in Iran. They've been very clear in their messaging by saying that they want the Iranian people to rise up, that they have no fight with the Iranian people, but they have it with the supreme leader and the Islamic Republic. They've been very clear about how they've been wording every single statement they've made. On the US front, I'm less clear. I'm less clear about what they want. I am less clear, honestly, about how much they knew all along about Israel's plans, whether they gave them a green light or whether they got involved later, whether what Secretary Hegseth now calls deception, whether that was indeed deception or whether it was a last-minute decision to join in. There's a lot right now that we still don't have clear answers on. I think, as you look at this question of whether America wants regime change or not, we must also ask the question, what is the alternative? So if you do topple Ayatollah Khomeini, who comes next? Is it going to be someone who is another hardliner? Remember, Khamenei has already put in place a list of people who could replace him. All of them are clerics. The clerics are, of course, backed by the IRGC and the Quds Force, which they have been depleted, but they are still the most powerful forces in the country. So, even if you try to take out Khamenei, it's very hard to imagine that anything that comes after would be dramatically different.
What is the possibility of this worsening within the region?
There's a reasonably high possibility, and we are in the great unknown. We genuinely do not know how Khamenei will try to respond. There are some hints that, when we saw Hezbollah decimated last fall, we anticipated that maybe either they would try to respond or Iran would try to respond in some way, and they really didn't. So the hopeful way of looking at this is that Iran is going to find some way to save face and then find a diplomatic off-ramp, maybe through Europe, maybe through other countries, and then strike some sort of a deal so that it can live literally to fight another day. But I think that is the hopeful scenario. There are other scenarios where, it is fairly easy to imagine that Khamenei feels that he needs to show some strength domestically, that a lot of the repression that he has sort of presided over at home, he may need to double down on that to make sure that there's no domestic opposition to him, that there are no domestic protests. So this could still develop in a variety of ways. We just don't know. And this is why it is always ill-advised to go for a military option instead of diplomatic options, which I will keep stressing, Vishnu, we're still on the table. These were two sides, the US and Iran, that were talking to each other. Iran, of course, also, there were sanctions that could have been snapped back by the Europeans and the Americans that could have hurt Iran. So there were steps to go. And I'll also say we do not yet have proof out in the open that Iran was as close to weaponizing its nuclear program as Israel says it was. The IAEA, in its most latest assessment, says they did not have proof that this was as imminent as Israel is leading us to believe. So, again, fog of war, there's a lot, with all humility, there's a lot that we don't know.
The Iranian nuclear weapons program is a bogey which is gone. I'm not necessarily picking any sides over here, but it's something that we've spoken about for decades. People have spoken about for decades. We are now in a scenario where Iran doesn't have a nuclear program, let alone a nuclear weapons program of any significance. I mean, the people say that it's a setback for a few years. I'd say it's a setback for more than a decade. Perhaps would never be given an opportunity of building another nuclear reactor or nuclear reactors of this sort. This being the case, the primary objective of America has perhaps been met. So that's something that Trump didn't want, that doesn't exist presently. Do they necessarily have any further issue with the Iranian regime? And similarly, Israel, their primary concern was always Tehran acquiring nuclear weapons, because then, it would be two nuclear countries facing off against each other, which they didn't want. That's been taken out. So that being the case, as long as there are no further terrorist attacks or these military attacks scaled down, then do you actually see these attacks today as being a pathway to peace?
Potentially, but there are two things you've said that I may differ with slightly, and I'll just elucidate them, Vishnu. First, I think Israel wanted more than just taking out Iran's nuclear program. I think it has seen Iran as backing these proxy militias around the region, all of those chants of death to Israel, death to America. I think Israel basically wanted regime change. Damn the consequences. They wanted to go for that. That is my sense of where they are. So it is unclear to me that they stop right now. All along, Netanyahu's been clear that Israel is weak right now, so we may as well just go for it. I'm not sure that changes. But on your other point about whether Iran's nuclear program is actually over, has it been set back by just a year or a decade? Personally, I am unclear on that. The American assessment, of course, is that it has really caused severe damage to Fordow. But the Iranians have been saying that they were prepared and they had evacuated some of their key reactors, certainly their scientists from Fordow, they'd moved them elsewhere. Again, this is the fog of war. I'm not entirely sure what is accurate, but here's what could happen. There is every possibility that Iran, out of this rubble, decides to exit from the NPT. And with that, the world may lose its ability to monitor and check Iran's progress if it tries to go the nuclear route again. Now, you could say that America and Israel could just bomb all over again, back to square one. But there is a world in which Iran can just sort of go underground, literally, and not have any checks and balances. And remember, this is a very repressive regime that rules by fear. They're not very popular. We know all these things. But they have the ability to impose immense pain on their people to do what they want. That reality hasn't quite changed as of now.
Ravi Agarwal, wonderful as always to speak with you. I'm joined now in a few moments by a very special guest, Tom Cooper, the military analyst on the strikes that went in today. But before we do that, I think it's useful to just listen in on what President Trump had to say, what the Iranian foreign minister had to say, other international reactions, because they sort of summarize where we stand today across the world.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal.
Well, joining us now, Tom Cooper, among the world's finest aviation and military analysts. Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper, for being with us. Just in terms of coordinating this entire mission, an 18-hour journey for 7 B-2 stealth fighters, the air-to-air refueling effort, linking up with stealth aircraft and non-stealth platforms, and going in and getting out without any shots fired. How remarkable is that?
Hello, and thank you very much for the invitation. Nice to be with you. As for the operation itself, for B-2s, nothing special. Foremost because the Iranians were so busy with an Israeli airstrike shortly before that. So the American intelligence was capable of finding out position of Iranian air defenses and correspondingly rerouting B-2s so to avoid the strongest defended positions inside Iran. Of course, bringing B-2 bombers or any other kind of bombers from the United States all the way to Iran is logistical art, so to say. It is an achievement, no doubt about this, and equally managing them to bring them without any kind of troubles and then to deploy their bombs precisely is also a military achievement. But otherwise, I don't find this that big an operation as boasted by the American administration.
Could you tell me a little bit about the GBU-57 which was used on Fordow and the fact that America claims that the mission was entirely successful? Would it have been successful without that weapon system?
Okay, let's start with the start. Fordow is one of the two facilities targeted by GBU-57s last night. The other was in Natanz, also an underground facility. The difference is that Natanz was buried some 30 to 60 meters under the ground, Fordow 80 to 90 at least, some say up to 800 meters deep under the ground. So, the next point is that all of these installations have been evacuated by the Iranians already days ago. That in the case of Fordow installation or facility, even satellite photographs are showing that already at least 2 days ago the Iranians have also buried the entrances into this installation. That means that there was nothing of any kind of value inside. And what the Americans have hit now was an empty installation. So now, what can a GBU-57 cause to them? Of course, a GBU, when it hits, it penetrates some 50 to 60 meters, and it causes a major blast and massive damage to these blasts and resulting vibrations. GBU-57s are usually dropped in pairs so that the second one is following the first one, hitting at the same spot and burying itself even deeper under the ground. So theoretically, 2 or 3 or 4, however, whichever number, could dig some 150, 200 meters under the ground or destroy the same facility definitely. This is out of question. So, for example, Natanz is probably completely destroyed. I assess Fordow as at least badly damaged, if not worse. But as said again, the Iranians have evacuated all of their nuclear materials already days before this strike.
But that said, Mr. Cooper, even if they have evacuated material, by which I presume you mean enriched uranium, the logistics, the facilities themselves have been destroyed. So in terms of the future of Iran's nuclear program, whether it's a weapons program or even a peaceful program, given the strikes which we've seen now from America and earlier from Israel, hasn't that been pushed back indefinitely? I mean, you can't build nuclear reactors overnight.
The fuel in question is not necessary to build nuclear reactors. Okay, it's used to build nuclear reactors. But the way the Iranians were enriching it, it was obviously aimed for something else, which is to have all the elements of a nuclear bomb. Iranians, or at least the Ayatollah, crazy Ayatollah, because he's not even really an Ayatollah, Khamenei have a fatwa from 2003 or 2005, according to which the country is not meant to have any kind of nuclear weapons in assembled condition. This is the nuclear doctrine of Iran. But it doesn't mean that they are not supposed to have all the parts necessary to assemble a nuclear weapon. So these are two different things. And they are obviously on the best way to achieve exactly this capability. But so far, also due to non-proliferation treaty, they've held back and they didn't assemble any nuclear weapons. However, this aggression on Iran is a violation of the nuclear proliferation treaty, and therefore Iran is now de facto free to say, okay, we assembled these centrifuges somewhere else, enrich to 90 or 95% as much as they need for a weapon, and assemble their weaponry. Nobody said that Khamenei cannot change or issue a new fatwa and say something else.
All right, and one final question to you. In terms of what we are seeing, in terms of the ballistic missile stocks which Iran has, and the stocks of Arrow interceptors and other interceptors which Israel has, to me it just seems that it's one pitted against the other, with both sides realizing that their stocks of ballistic missiles or interceptors are fast depleting. This being the case, and I think it is a reality, do you believe that the overt military strikes in terms of ballistic missile attacks from Israel, from Iran onto Israel, would essentially be limited? It cannot go on forever.
No, I'm not convinced of this. Iran has meanwhile switched its strategy. Early on, yes, the first 2 or 3 days, 2.5 days, it was striking with big numbers of missiles. But what is the IRGC doing by this? It was mapping the Israeli air defenses. Mapping Israeli air defenses means it was trying to find out how are they reacting, where are they positioned, how fast are they reacting, what kind of weaponry is used, and what is its actual performance. Because theory is everything that was available before this war, and now all of this is turned into practice. And they have found out specific weaknesses in this system, and they are exploiting this now. And what you see now, the last 5-6 days, is that they are combining different types of missiles. Some are deployed as decoys for Israeli air defense, and others are striking actual targets. sometimes extremely precisely, sometimes they're missing by several hundred meters. This depends on the type of the ballistic missile used. But essentially, Iranians are managing this operation, meanwhile, quite cleverly. They do not need any more 50 missiles to fire 50 missiles at once in order to strike, for 5 or 6 for them to get through and to strike. As we have seen just early this morning, they fire 27 missiles and some 7 or 8 of them hitting targets. So this means higher percentage than Israelis are claiming is getting through.
That's true.
So the Iranians are absolutely satisfied with their position as far as I can say.
No immediate choices.
And they excuse me, just an add-on for this, they can go on like this. I mean, with 20, 30 missiles a day, they can go on like this for 100 days at least. This is 3.5 months.
Yeah. All right, Tom Cooper, great speaking to you, and I think that's an important reality check. It's not quite over in terms of military action between Iran and Israel, perhaps for a relatively extended period of time. Thank you very much for being with us. In just the last little while, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has spoken about the possibility of the Straits of Hormuz being cut off by Iran. If that was to take place, then that would have a huge impact on the international flow of oil. Here's what he's had to say.
Do you expect Iran to move to close the Strait of Hormuz to try to disrupt oil transportation across the world?
Well, I encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about that because they heavily depend on the Straits of Hormuz for their oil. If they do that, it'll be another terrible mistake. It's economic suicide for them if they do it. And we retain options to deal with that. But other countries should be looking at that as well. It would hurt other countries' economies a lot worse than ours. It would be, I think, a massive escalation that would merit a response, not just by us, but from others. So, look, they're going to say what they need to say. These are the things that need to happen for their own internal politics and so forth. But in the end, we're going to judge them by the actions that they take moving forward. We had 3 objectives. We struck those 3 objectives with decisive force. And that was the point of this mission. And that's what we achieved. What happens next will depend on what they do. They want to negotiate. We're ready to negotiate. They want to get cute and do things that are dangerous. We have responses available that are devastating.
All right, so if there is an attack on the Straits of Hormuz, which you can see, it's a narrow channel through which the bulk of the globe's oil flows actually pass. If that is shut down by Iran, it would be an international catastrophe. I mean, oil prices would just go off the roof. It would be a massive escalation. That's what the worry really is. That's the Straits of Hormuz. It's just a less than 40-kilometer passage through which the oil flows from all over the world, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, even for Iran itself, whatever they are able to export, the United Arab Emirates, it all gets very badly impacted. What we are going to do, however, now is go across and take a look at a special report by my colleague Ankit Tyagi, who's been in Tel Aviv. He was there this morning when Iran retaliated with some of its most intense ballistic missile attacks in recent days.
Now, just on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. I'm not allowed to, in fact, share the location with you, but I just want to show you that this is another residential, in fact, area just on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, where you will see the damage, extensive damage, which has taken place because of the direct missile hit that this area, in fact, took. These houses just behind me have been severely damaged, and you would see that it seems like this entire colony, a neighborhood of sorts, where houses have completely come down. One portion of this very house has completely crumbled, along with the extensive damage that you see on the others that are behind me. This is a residential neighborhood just from the outskirts of capital Tel Aviv. Earlier, we were in fact in the northern part of the capital, where we were showing you the visuals of the Ramat Aviv area. And now we have driven about 40 minutes from that spot to this very different area. We are the only Indian media team, which has in fact reached this spot. This neighborhood at this moment is completely. Many houses have been completely damaged, and it was also part of the barrage of missiles that came in this morning from Iran as a retaliation from their side of the bombing that took place on their nuclear sites. So in the morning, in the barrage of the missiles, about 27 of them which were launched. The area where I was earlier, this one in fact most severe, because this is these are the houses, the residential area, which has taken a direct hit of those missiles, and that is why you see extensive damage at this moment. It is being cleared by the security forces as we speak, and the houses, the occupants of these houses were in the safe room, I've been told, when the impact in fact took place. Some people have been injured. Here there are cars which are standing on the pavement. They're the windows, the front shield and the back windscreen, all of them absolutely shattered on impact of this. But at this moment, a lot of volunteers and security apparatus here, along with the rescue, teams, I can see them clearing these houses from inside, and people taking out what they had. But this, in fact, when you look at it, it tells you this is all that is left of somebody's residence, somebody's house, somebody who possibly would have been living here for years, and all that now stands completely destroyed. And the destruction here tells the story in itself of the impact of that barrage of the missiles that came in this morning from Iran.
And Ankit joins us live now. Ankit, thanks very much for joining us at this stage. It's been a tense several hours after America went and hit Iran. There have been fierce exchanges of ballistic missiles from Iran onto Israel. Israel has also retaliated. What's the immediate situation in Tel Aviv, where you are at the moment?
Vishnu, let me tell you that, as the day is coming to an end, it's about 7 o'clock in the evening here. The situation in Tel Aviv, I would not say it's back to normal, but for people, those who have essential work or have to go out somewhere, there is movement on the street, not as much as you would see on any other given Sunday here in the city. Most of the establishments, whether they are commercial establishments, restaurants, in the evening, all those things are shut right now. Shopping complexes, we wanted to go. We faced a little bit of a problem with one of our live equipment, and I tried across the city. There is not even a single shop open that you can go and buy there. But people have started coming out. Throughout the day, it was just about those 35-40 minutes in the morning when that barrage of missiles that came in from Iran, 27 of those, I'm being told, around 10 locations, especially around Haifa and Tel Aviv, were targeted. 2 of those that we reported from in Tel Aviv, northern Tel Aviv, and on the outskirts, suburb in the south end of Tel Aviv. Those are the ones that we reported from, where the impact was seen on the ground, the reports that we put out. So at this moment, Vishnu, as you can see, some vehicular traffic behind me, some people also out on the streets, but it's not a normal evening in Tel Aviv. There is expectation that there is going to be heightened tensions, and tonight they are expecting there could be another volley from Iran, because Israel has hit back. And till when will this cycle of going on, the reaction and counter reaction, till when will it go on? There are people asking those questions, though there is support as well for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, who has started this entire operation, saying that they will only stop till after they have completely disarmed Iran's ability to in fact produce any kind of nuclear weapon. In fact, Vishnu, interestingly, when we were going out of Tel Aviv towards the suburbs, which I showed you earlier, I saw on buildings massive posters where people had written, in fact, posters hung for thanking Donald Trump for jumping into this conflict, which has now turned this whole thing on its head. There were big posters of "Thank you, Mr. President," with a smiling Donald Trump that we saw all across. So this is something that for the last week or so that people have been waiting for more than 10 days. There was anticipation that America should come in with its military might in this conflict. Whether America post this increases its involvement is something that we'll have to wait and see. Probably it will depend on whether American interest and their bases in Middle East are hit by Iran or its proxies. But at this moment in the evening in Tel Aviv, far less crowd on the street, people sticking right next to their houses and those safe shelters because there is anticipation that Iran is going to retaliate once again.
All right, you take care now, Ankit. Thanks very much for being with us. We'll be back with you later on this evening and indeed tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed. We're joined now by Shelley Tal Meron, a member of Israel's parliament with the Yesh Atid party. Thanks, ma'am, very much for being with us. How important are the American strikes for Israel today? Your primary concern for a very long period of time has been Iran's nuclear program. That's essentially gone. With that being the case, do you believe that the bulk of your struggle against Iran is over?
Well, first of all, this is a historic day, not only for the state of Israel and the United States. I think it's a historic day for the entire globe, since the nuclear weapon that Iran was trying to obtain holds a threat to the entire world. Of course, it has threatened the state of Israel, it's an existential threat, but it's also a threat to the entire globe. Therefore, this is a historical day. And we've been talking about Iran being the head of the snake for decades now. They've been basically at war with Israel for decades and for no reason. We do not share a border. We do not have an issue with the Iranian people. We only have an issue with this regime that is fully intended to destroy the state of Israel. They are saying out loud, we want to eradicate the state of Israel. And therefore, Iran is the one who started this war decades ago. We were very concerned as time went by that Iran was proceeding very fast to having a nuclear weapons, and also they were producing ballistic missiles at a very, very high speed. And we had to put a stop to that because this is an existential threat to the state of Israel. So we are very thankful to the American administration and to President Trump for doing this courageous attack against the nuclear facilities. I think that he made the right decision. We were hoping for that to happen, but we were fully in belief that he will make the right decision for the United States and the rest of the world. And I think today there was a loud message sent to Iran and the entire world that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. And, we have to wait and see the exact results of this this special operation that went on yesterday. But we have to make sure that Israel is safe and other countries around the world are safe also.
I'm just trying to understand, what is Israel's objective right now? Is it regime change in Iran?
Well, I'm an opposition member. I'm not a part of the government, and I don't decide what are the goals
I know that,
of this
but you
war.
are also united at this time. I think your opinion.
United.
I think your opinion would be important. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, of course. First of all, we do support our government with this decision. This war had to be, we had to go into this war, unfortunately. And I do think that the goals that were stated was to destroy the nuclear weapons and to destroy the ballistic missiles production. These were the two goals. Now, let me tell you, I'm sure a lot of Iranians will be very happy if the regime will change. I don't think that the state of Israel is aiming in that direction, and we are not talking about.
All right, apologies, we've lost that line with Shelley Tal Meron, but we'll try and speak to her again in the future. Sorry, we've got you back, ma'am. Go ahead. We lost your line for a moment. Finish your thought.
Sorry for that. I was saying that, of course, As I said, we support the government with this decision. The two main goals are destroying the nuclear weapons and destroying the ability to produce the ballistic missiles. They were in very high speed with producing them. I think these are the main goals. We do not interfere with the regime within Iran. It's the Iranian people decision which regime they want. I'm sure a lot of Iranians today will be happy if this regime will change, since they're oppressing their own people. They're a fundamentalistic regime. They're oppressing women and, of course, LGBT community and other minorities. And therefore, it's not exactly friendly, this regime. But we are not aiming at, the regime.
All right, you're not breaking the regime, at least not at the moment. Thanks very much, ma'am, for being with us. I should also tell our viewers that in the next 5 minutes or so, we'll be able to bring you new high-resolution satellite imagery of the success of the strikes on Esfahan and on Natanz. So that's coming up now. The pictures are with us. We are going to be getting that up as soon as we possibly can. I'm joined now by Zamir Abbas Jafri, a professor at the Al Mustafa International University in Qom, Avner Cohen, a professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterrey, and Sol Sadka, a Middle East analyst and author. Thank you all very much for being with us. Zamir Abbas Jafri, at this juncture, what are the realistic options that Iran has? Militarily, America has struck. These nuclear facilities have been damaged, to say the least. This being the case, do you believe it's realistic for Iran to be striking American assets? Is that at all the intention?
Thank you very much, Mr. Vishnu, for inviting me, and greetings to you and all our Indian brothers and sisters and all our guests. Secondly, the first question should be, this is an act of aggression. It's an act of war against a sovereign nation. United Nations charters, this is completely against it. United Nations chief has opposed it. Majority of the nations of the world and the people of the world have opposed it. So the first fundamental question is, why is a country allowed to engage in such act of aggression against a sovereign nation, first of all. Second of all, the question is whether Iran will retaliate or not retaliate. That question doesn't arise, because Ayatollah Khamenei, who's the supreme leader of Iran, he clearly stated 3 points in his recent speech, when America or Trump tried to enforce submission to Iran. He clearly stated 3 points. One, he said that we are not going to accept forced peace. We will not accept forced war. And the third point is, if America attacks Iran or engages in this war, the result will be, we will be stuck and we will face losses, but the losses that America will face will be much huge.
I don't know.
At the moment, Israel. Yes, this is. Sorry, you wanted to ask anything?
Avner Cohen, where do you actually see this headed right now? Do you believe that the realistic scenario over here is for Iran not to attack America, because America has said they'll hit back very hard? That makes this an altogether different kind of conflict. Do you believe that Iran might not do that while continuing to attack Israel?
It's a possibility. Iran faced a very, very serious dilemma, and the supreme leader has to address now. For better or worse, Iran is a defeated nation. It has suffered a great deal militarily. It was humiliated, and I don't think that it's Iran lost a sense of, within 10 days, Iran lost a great deal. And whether it was right in terms of international security, the fact that from international law there was a movement to force, that's a different question. And there are issues about that. But nevertheless, the result right now is that Iran is a defeated nation. And yet it's a proud nation. It's a nation with a long history, with a long civilization. And that's what makes the dilemma before its leaders, before the supreme leader, so painful one. On the one hand, it has the desire to retaliate. Retaliation would cause much further damage by Israel and by the United States. The United States moved to this act last night reluctantly, very, very reluctantly. They want to have a deal right now. They wanted to have a deal earlier, whether it was sabotage or whether Iran did not respond to the American request. It's a different story. Israel did attack. The United States stood outside and was waiting, and Iran was not ready to negotiate. And the fact is that the decision is whether to retaliate and to have much more humiliations, or to drink the very bitter thing and to wait for a better future and to raise the issue that my colleague raised. There are serious issues about the Israeli action. Israel is too much into kinetic action as a solution. There is a problem with that. It's a very big dilemma, and I think that so far, I do not know what the Iranian leader would decide. It's very much up to him, and that would determine what would continue the next move.
Saul Satka, what about the potential or the possibility of Iran getting out of the nuclear non-proliferation regime, saying that, look, what's the point of Iran being in the NPT, because our sites were being monitored by the IAEA, we haven't built a bomb, we weren't trying to build a bomb, no one seemed to believe us, so now
question.
Forget about
what
that.
What they did and how far they went, it's a different
Saul Satka, go ahead.
Hi, so yes, I'm sure that before the Israelis and the Americans began this campaign, which started 8 days ago, and has dismantled the Iranian air defense, the Air Force, and pretty much all their favorite things, I'm sure they figured out exactly what they have and where they have it. And I'm not particularly worried that they'll be able to break out at this point. It doesn't seem realistic. They're being monitored too closely, and they have no way to retaliate except to lob completely random, inaccurate missiles at population centers, while their enemies, Israel and the USA, are able to dismantle them piece by piece, and none of their bombs miss. There's really there's no close, it's not a close war here. The Iranians, for example, have sent over 1,000 drones at Israel. Only 1 out of 1,000 got through. Of the 550 missiles they sent at Israel, about 30 have got through and killed 24 civilians. They haven't managed to kill one single member of the Israeli armed forces, while their entire regime has been dismantled in a week. This is the most one-sided battle, the most one-sided war, perhaps in human history. So I'm not particularly worried that they're going to be able, at this point, to pull any tricks that the Americans and the Israelis have not already preempted or are ready for.
All right. Okay, so just I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us at this stage. We're going to move right on now to the latest satellite imagery which is coming in of Maxar imagery of Isfahan and of Natanz. We're just waiting for that to get processed. Thank you all very much for being with us at this stage. I'm just going to, for the benefit of our viewers, bring you up to date with the situation today. I'm going to actually move over to the big screen right now so that we can bring you these images that you see on your screen right now. We're going to run through these images which give you an idea of the extent of the devastation which has taken place. These are, right, let's just have these images up. This shows Natanz and Isfahan. This is one of the images. We're going to label these images very carefully in a little while from now, but this shows you the other two sites. Now, we were talking about the site, the earlier site which was struck by American B-2 bombers, but as you can see, the Tomahawk cruise missile strikes also destroyed key facilities. So let's move to the next set of images, and let's start zooming in as well where necessary. Now, there are massive blast points or impact points as well. You can see cratering which has taken place. The exact areas which are struck, remember, a part of Natanz is also underground. So these would also have been targeted, possibly using the same set of weapons which we discussed earlier, or Tomahawk cruise missiles. Let's move to the next image, and then again a couple of earlier, before and after images. Let's go to the next one to give our viewers an idea of the areas that we are broadly talking about. If you look at the top right-hand side, you can see more damage which has taken place. This is either in Natanz or in Isfahan. Again, we label these images carefully in a while from now so that you have an idea of just where this has taken place. But this is further evidence of the success of the American hits. So let's move to the next image as well at this stage. Again, widespread destruction over here in this nuclear facility. You can see multiple hits having taken place over here in the building further up. This is complete destruction and devastation of this facility. I believe this could be the Isfahan facility. We're trying to get more details of this at this juncture. We've got a couple of more images which we can also share with our viewers. Again, it does appear to me, and I'll need to analyze this more closely, that this could be one of the areas which was struck. This does appear to show some sort of scarring over here because of an attack. And if we have the final image that we can share with you, that's pretty much it. Then, this gives you an idea of the areas which were struck as well. So there you have it, an idea of the very latest situation at this juncture with regard to evidence of the success of the American strikes. These are of the other two bases that have not been discussed so much, nuclear facilities, Natanz and Isfahan, both of which have been hit, as we've showed you, very hard indeed. We'll take a short break. There's more coming up.